Hoboken. Everyone at happy hour, we're going to talk about man-made climate change, so come on and get pumped. No, okay. I'm Ross Bergman. I'm the senior manager of sustainability at Wonder. We are changing the in-home dining experience, bringing mobile restaurants to your door with some of the world's best chefs, cooking meals hot and fresh, delivered instantly on demand. Check us out at Wonder. And I have with us a little different programming. We were original triumvirate. I have Tina Bennett here from CMC Energy Services, and so we're going to have a little more of a one-on-one than the old three-man weave. So say hi, Tina.
Hello, everyone. It's working. Okay, hello, everyone. I'm Tina Bennett, the president and CEO of CMC Energy Services. We are an energy efficiency business that helps customers through utility and state agency programs save money on their electricity, live more comfortably and safely in their homes and businesses. So happy to be here. Our mission is to empower communities through energy efficiency, clean energy, to create a more affordable, comfortable, and sustainable future, an equitable future. So I'm so happy to be here today. We help serve all customer segments, but 80% or more of our work is done in low and moderate income communities. These are the communities that need help most in lowering their energy bills, and we're so happy to be able to help them. So happy to be here today. I know we are between you and cocktail hour, but thank you for sticking in with us, and hope that we can answer some of your questions and demystify a little bit what net zero means and how we're going to get there.
Yeah, that's a great place to start diving in, because it's not news to anyone of global climate change or the importance for businesses to drive action towards solving it. The terms often get a little confusing. So would you first, even the word sustainability and net zero in your mind, just give especially from your perspective as like a legit energy solutions provider, and then I'll parry back with what we see at Wonder.
Sure. Sustainability can have a really broad meaning, but when we think about it in the context of getting to net zero, it's really about addressing climate change and removing the greenhouse gases, carbon in particular, out of our world and out of the way we work, live, and play, and out of our atmosphere. These are the damaging gases that are affecting our climate. We've all experienced, if you just look what happened in Florida just a week ago, weather in Texas and wildfires in California, we're seeing the intensity of storms grow, and it's costing lives, it's costing billions of dollars, and we need to move it's costing our health, right? So we need to move to a more sustainable planet so that our planet can be here for generations to come. Just to give you a little bit about impact, so our vision of the world is a more livable and sustainable planet. CMC, with our partners, removes annually 190 million pounds of carbon out of the world every year. We reduce. That's put in perspective. We take 41 million cars off the road annually, or we provide electricity to serve 37 million homes annually. So it's meaningful. But to get there, what net zero really means is we need to reduce carbon, take it out of the processes, out of our buildings, out of our transportation, out of our food sources.
Yeah.
And then with whatever is left, getting to net zero is then about capturing it and removing it out of the atmosphere entirely. So that's sort of how I think about it.
So, and I think it's a good point that what your business is essentially doing is being net negative, because just in operating, you're helping so many more people beyond the scope. And I think that's, everyone's focused on their little bit, but like sustainability, the transition to a sustainable future, one that everyone thinks sustainability is necessarily about right now, but what you're doing is helping set the vision 50, 100 years down the road by looking outside the spectrum of just what it takes to operate your business. That's
Absolutely.
a good way to look at it, right?
Absolutely. To get there, we need to change entirely rewire the way we think, the way we work, the way our energy systems run today. And we're in transition already, right? The state of New Jersey has put its clean energy plan in place, has been investing large amounts of dollars to help make the transition, introduce electric vehicles, introduce renewable energies, reduce usage. Energy efficiency is often the cheapest way to avoid carbon. Don't create it in the first place, right? And so these are all things that we can do, but we're doing it in a place where we still have a high dependency on fossil fuels. That is the big generator of carbon. We see it in the petroleum products we use to fuel our vehicles. We see it in the fossil fuel power plants that produce our electricity.
Even the plastics, just in everything we do, that's in it, literally inescapable.
The oil and fuels we use to heat our homes.
Yeah.
So it's really changing the whole infrastructure that really creates the world around us in order to get to net zero.
Yeah, and so what we see similar, like where we are, Wonder, is we're a startup here in New Jersey where it feels in the certain areas we serve in Union, Essex, Bergen counties, we feel like we're everywhere, but we're really at the beginning of this long vision. So we're looking at how do you build a company that will be at a massive scale, that not only we're not the only new company coming about, that either we could be adding tons and tons of emissions to it, or are we thinking at the beginning through all the different ways that we impact the planet? We have a lot of vehicles, we're sourcing a lot of food, we're creating a lot of food waste, like specifically through these verticals, let's call them. Are we making the decision right now that we're going to scale in a good model or scale in a bad model? And when we talk about sustainability, it's not just about, it's literally making the decisions today with the future as a stakeholder in that decision, because we have to, there are natural limits to what the earth can provide and sustain. So fitting that within our model of where we're going is we have to build that now. The urgency's on a company like, I think it should be on every company in their responsibility. We've been talking for like 2 hours before this, so we didn't get rid of all the good stuff, but we talked about like the challenges and like everything in this realm. It feels like everyone's just waiting for the big thing to happen. What are the challenges you see? And then like where is the real what's going to blow the sustainable transformation? You know, if you look 50, 100 years down the road, when we all have flying cars powered by the sun and everything's grown in green, you know, whatever that magical picture is, what is the problem now, impediment, and how do we get around it?
No, that's a great question. The technology is there, and the challenge is the complexity, right? Our infrastructure and the investments we make last a really long time. So if we don't start making those investments now, we're going to have infrastructure in the ground that isn't going to serve us well going forward. It's complex, though, because the clean energy system doesn't meet all of our needs today. The old system doesn't meet all of our needs today. And when you combine the two, they're sometimes at odds. And so we're trying to make this transition and trying to figure out how all of these things come together. It takes a lot of long-term planning. And you know, people today and businesses today often live in the short term, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a real hard challenge to get around. I think about it as will. Do we as a society have the will to really live through this crisis and manage it effectively? You know, if it's a storm crisis in your neighborhood, everybody comes out to help each other, and you'll do anything in the moment, whether it's curtail your load or provide food or whatever it is in the moment, but those are generally in the moment. To solve climate change, the crisis that we're under now, it's a long-term issue. We see it as something that, you know, you hear the numbers, well, net zero by 2030, net zero by 2050. Well, we have plenty of time, but we don't. We don't have plenty of time. We have to act now, because the more we invest in old infrastructure that isn't clean, the more it's going to cost us to get there going forward. And the more we are impacting the environment now, so we'll have more work to do. So I think it's really around how do we get all the technologies talking? How do we transition the grid as quickly and effectively and efficiently as possible?
Yeah.
And how do we get everyone here, right? Everyone here to help make decisions together. So I'm just going to ask a question of the audience.
Okay.
How many people have added or have 2 or 3 computers at home? Raise your hand. Yeah. How many people have gotten an energy audit?
Oh, 2 in the back. Hey.
2, 3.
4.
4.
All right.
How many people have considered an electric vehicle as their next purchase? Well, that's a good one. All right. So I think it's really thinking about what are the things we can do today in our own personal lives. And it's not about going backwards, but it's about adopting new technologies that allow us to live a more full life. And it's really, climate change is as much about public health, as much about resilience, and as much about saving the planet for future generations as is of anything
It's
else.
about defining this transition and setting the stage, actually making the levers work together to drive this transition, and it's also mitigating the impacts as we go. So is like in a business like ours, we're literally trying, like you say, the challenges. It's like, how do you make it really, really, really easy for someone to do the right thing? And whether it's like an energy audit or there's like plenty of programs. There's no shortage. The state of New Jersey especially has like EV incentives, home energy audit incentives. Like it's all out there. Business vehicle incentives for EVs. But it takes a lot of persistence to like push through it, and then even connecting the dots from the different orgs. So I think that's what we see. We're putting next year like 900 full EV medium duty vehicles. If you didn't see our Wonder Mobile restaurants, right when you check in, it's the gray and beet colored. It's called Olga of all the ones they sent out here. Maybe not the most charming name, but vehicles of that size, putting 900 of those full electric out on the road, there's not enough energy or transmission to where we are in the state to actually charge those. So we have to piece together between all the stakeholders, and that's DEP, BPU, PSEG, the utilities, EDA. Everyone's got this little bit of how are they helping battery storage? How are we incentivizing PSEG to put the capacity in for your building to even get the more energy you need? It takes a really we have a wonderful government relations team, our government relations directors here in the back. But like it takes like almost like a Sherpa guiding you through, oh, this person knows that part, and it's really hard. So I would say like making more of these connections so any person and business, like I find I spend most of my time talking to local small businesses, like, did you know you can get an EV for really cheap for your compost hauling? They're like, no, how do I do that? It's like, oh, here, talk to this person. She'll save you $75,000 on an EV. Like the incentives are great. The programs are there. So making that transition, and then like you said with storm response, like a company like us, we have to build out, and that's like there are really good frameworks. I don't know anyone in a business, CDP, Carbon Disclosure Project, TCFD. There's a lot of these. I was going to say anagrams, but programs that are really well founded and give you that guidance. So if you were just to build a sustainable company from scratch, you can kind of follow the blueprint. And all of them take like climate mitigation into account. And last year we had Hurricane Ida. If you go into you could probably still see it. If you go to the NJDEP website, there is a photo of like Hurricane Ida relief, and it's one of our mobile restaurants stuck in a flood. I don't know how they found that, but it's like, oh, geez, we're the poster child for risk of like we're sending these vehicles out. What if a hurricane hits? What if there's just too much? It's 120 degrees one day. So that's something we as a business have to start planning, and it's not just like all hippy-dippy like sustainable. This like legitimate business impacts, and that's maybe what you see on the other side is like proving the case that like decoupling the old sustainability vision that it's like crunchy and nice and feels good, but it's literally what business needs and personal. Like we need to make it easy for people to have how do we get people their own power walls so that, when the next storm comes, they don't lose power.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest opportunities is like I said, the technology is there, but we have to make it easier to adopt. We can't expect homeowners to really think about their energy every day. I mean, we're so accustomed to plugging things in and it works. So how can we use technology behind the scenes to make all of that work much more efficiently? And so, honestly, are we really going to notice if our water heater cycles a little bit more during the peak? To provide a little bit of flattening of the demand on the system, so we don't have to build out so much infrastructure. Right. Do we really care when our vehicles charge, as long as it's full in the morning? So let's create the flexibility, but not make the businesses and the homeowners try to figure out how it all works and how to manage it.
And then what I think we were listening to the other panel, and they were talking about just like equity data. But really knowing where the data is, and we get a lot of questions about running a fleet of vehicles. Think of the impact you're making. This is really big, but if you look across our business, probably our biggest impact is just sourcing the food. And not only is that like a biggest source of emissions, one of the biggest solutions. So as we go and we grow, like we have to look and identify, and there's a lot of good, if you're in a startup environment, there's a lot of good. We're partnering with a company called Sustain.Life to really measure a full scope across our entire platform beyond our direct operations and inside it to directly measure all these impacts, because we can't do anything, right, if we don't know how to get to net zero or even beyond that if we don't know what we're even doing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you raised the issue of equity, because our current system isn't equitable. If you look at disadvantaged communities, often have the energy infrastructure right in their backyard that is creating air quality issues and public health issues. And this is really an opportunity as we think about solving for climate change to also solve for equity.
We were talking about businesses solving that for their employees who might be in that situation where, like, community solar energy efficiency, why don't employers just provide this as a benefit where it costs no one anything, the funding's already there. We can change that paradigm. I think we have a question. Scream it, because...
Can we get a mic? Hold on, we're going to get you a mic because I can't hear your question. Sorry.
I think we're on the lines of, after he thanked us for our awesome work, he was saying
how amazing you guys are.
That
there was a butt there. I want to hear
what
the
we're
butt.
doing in the U.S. And then,
for all the efforts that we're doing here in the United States, are we going to really make a difference globally if you have other nations that are not cooperating, like China and parts of India, building all these coal-fired plants? And are we just spinning our wheels, or are we actually going to accomplish something?
No, we have to handle what we can handle. We have the market set up for what we can handle. China actually has probably one of the better levers. If they want to make the change, they can make it, and they already are. Like, China has like 100 times more, I'm going to get the stat wrong, like EVs on the road than the U.S. Like, the challenge that's also out there is you have 1 billion people in Africa who haven't even gotten up to 18th century energy standards yet. So we're gonna not only going down from where we are, the whole pie is going to increase. We can't just stop and say it's not worth doing.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they're still building one coal-fired plant a week in China.
Okay, New Jersey still uses coal-fired plants too, so
here's the thing, right? We got to take it one. It's a really good question. It's a very geopolitical question, and there's a lot of global thinkers trying to figure out how all of this comes together. What I can say is we have to do our part, and what I can say is if we look at even what the federal government did in landmark legislation around climate and energy. Recently through the IRA, which is the Inflation Recovery Act, they thought about this in terms of how we set up our own system to make sure that we're not contributing to the problem. So making sure that we're locally sourcing materials from the front end, even on like battery storage, and that we're producing here locally because we can control that, right? So right from the source of the minerals and
even energy security as a
so whole supply chain.
national security issue. We have to build our reliance, and that's where we're driving to.
So that's the opportunity.
That's the opportunity. I think we're over time.
Yeah, you have a couple more minutes. Are there any other questions? You have a question?
Hey, thank you so much for your work. Amazing conversation today. One of the things I come across often is the people that just don't believe in the climate change, and then the question is, how do you respond to that? And then the part two is around the politicization of this approach. So I saw a young woman in Wyoming saying, oh, that climate change stuff, that's like fairy tales, right? What do you think?
I think at this point, I go blunt on this. I don't think it matters. Like, I think the federal government just passed like the biggest funding possible for its business, and Faith, who was going to join us, is at an even bigger business than both of us. It's now a mandate, and it's good business. It's not just about good. Like, that one person has way less. I hate to be like, it doesn't matter what she thinks, because we're going to put a whole lot of clean energy in this system every day. When someone's like, what can I do about my food waste? I feel so bad. It's like, don't worry. I'm funneling like tons of food waste out to the right thing. Like, the big scaled things, when you get to business, when you get to municipalities, like, it's happening, and it's a moot point to me at this point. Like, we're rolling.
And I would say that's where public policy has to come in, right? That's where leadership has to come in. Building codes, product standards, programs that allow people to participate, and mandate the level of which we're building our infrastructure. I think that's where we need strong leaders at the federal and the state level. New Jersey's got some great, strong leadership here, really supporting the transition. But that's how we're going to get there. That's how we're going to get there. Thank you for the question.
Yeah. It's less the future than the present reality. Is just, it's better. It's cheaper for us to get renewable energy. We're putting out these vehicles on the road. The cheapest vehicle we can make is coming next year. It's an electric vehicle. Our business is incentivized in so many ways to just, it's not like I even have to like force anyone's hand or like convince them it's a good idea anymore. It's really just showing the business case like any other business decision you're going to make. Just knowing how it all stacks up and where the levers are.
Yeah, and I know we're going to run out of time, so I'm
go
going to
ahead.
leave you with all this. The Investment Recovery Act, the Inflation Recovery Act has a ton of tax and other incentives, both for businesses and for individuals, to make steps, take steps. So if you haven't gotten your energy audit, call your utility, get it. Look at the incentives available for you to invest in energy efficiency, renewable energy, electric vehicles. Take your first step today. You all came here because you were interested. Leave here and take one step. That's my ask. And thank you very much for listening.
I want to reemphasize that, because I was actually going to ask you that. Is a lot of times people think that their one little contribution can't make a difference. But based on what you just said, we can all make a difference, right?
And
Yes,
especially in New
absolutely.
Jersey, that's like run by so many municipalities, we've seen towns really making a stand and making drivers where the town of Westfield, New Jersey really cares about sustainability. So they have a municipal compost drop-off program because the will of their residents has influenced their local town, executives. And it's a place like this is really actionable. We've seen this in a lot of different towns. So talk to your neighbors. They care as much as you do. Talk to your city council members. They know all the incentives that they have to do this too.
Yeah. How many people have delved into the electric world so far? Yeah, me too. Does anyone driving an electric car? Yeah. And the thing is that the services haven't quite caught up with us. So, it's not exactly the easiest thing. You have to install a charger, and there's not a whole lot of fill stations, but it's actually becoming a community that's kind of cool, right? You
beats
pull
going to
into
the
these
gas
charge
station.
stations. Exactly.
Absolutely.
No one likes going to the gas station. That's there's a speaker who's, I forget her name now. She wrote a really awesome book that's like, let's forget about it. It's all this stuff isn't about like, it's more it's cooler. You can drive a
Right.
faster car that doesn't pollute, that is quiet and costs less, and you don't have to go to the gas station.
I haven't been to the gas station, and so
It's
in fact,
amazing.
I drove my another car, that's not electric recently, and I almost ran out of gas because I haven't been to a gas station in so long that I forgot that you actually have to stop and fill the thing up. So I was like, oh right, where's gas? That's right. But once you make the switch, you'll never go back. It's just it's incredible, and it just feels good. You feel like you're doing something to help the environment.
That's
Well, here's
it.
another one. Go get a test drive.
Yes.
They are fun to drive.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Yeah, and carpool wherever you can. Imagine that. Right. You now are driving electric and you put a few more people in the
And
car.
download
so-
Wonder and order Wonder.
Did you have a question? No emissions tax. Yes. I didn't
Even
think
the
of that.
inspection's cheap.
Inspection.
I could go all day.
Oh,
Bring
I
the
mean, there's
happy
so
hour
much.
here. We'll just
yeah.
party.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I do see some younger people in the crowd. And what I want to just say too is we need workforce. We need talented individuals to join companies like mine, like
Yep.
Wonder, to help get this work
And you don't
done.
have to work in quote unquote sustainability to do it. Like our tech team's here, and like I talked to a lot of them about like you actually hold the keys to a lot of fun stuff. Like they're the ones routing our vehicles and figuring out the algorithm. They're like, oh, you know what? We can measure how much they're filling up or how much charge time. Then we can figure out the most energy efficient route to get there. Like everyone, part of my job and what I do is explaining to everyone where their impacts are and then letting them run with it because they know what they do better than I do.
Yeah, great jobs.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you both very much. Thanks.
Thank you.
Very great way to end our panel discussions today. Thank the two of you.